Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Vintown Mariners podcast, the number one Mariners podcast recorded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am Vintown, and I am here to report the news. If you haven't heard, of course, you've heard. Scott Servais is no longer the Seattle Mariners manager. Probably going to go down as the second best manager in Mariners history. Is that damning with faint praise? Maybe. But honestly, he could be the best manager in Mariners history if you really think about it. Because Lou Piniella, yeah, he's the best. He has the best teams. But did Scott ever have Griffey? Did Scott ever have Edgar Martinez? Did Scott ever have Randy Johnson, Ichiro? No, he didn't. He had 2 good years of Julio, and then he made a lot of chicken salad out of chicken. You know what? Yeah, he's did a great job. He got a lot out of nothing. 4 separate years, 5 separate years. Well, I guess he had Cano those early years, but the point stands that he has done a lot with a little. Very flawed rosters his whole time. Terrible pitching to start, and then terrible hitting to the end. But he's gone now, and the season goes on. I personally don't think that he's to blame. But if you make a move, maybe it wakes people up. Whatever. Like at this point, it doesn't matter. He probably wasn't going to be back next year if this team didn't make the playoffs. And, this was maybe an ownership call. I don't know. But, it's a move that it felt inevitable. Why did it feel inevitable? Because the Mariners were 10 games up in first place, and now they're a 500 team. On June 18th, they had a 10-game lead in division, and since then, they are... Oh my God, I wrote this down and I lost it. Since then, they are 20-33. 20-33. That's terrible. Coming off a road trip where they went 1-8, swept by the Detroit Tigers, lost 2-3 to the Pirates, and swept by the Dodgers. Bad stuff. What I'll say about this is there was 3 games of those 9, 3 games, where Scott did the exact right thing. The team had the lead. He brought in Jimmy Garcia or he brought in Andres Munoz. He did like the exact, this is the perfect way to win, like script, Your starter does this. You have the lead. Go to this reliever. Then go to this reliever. Like, you play MLB The Show. You play out of the park baseball. Like, that's what you're going to do. That's what the analytics sheet that Jerry in the front office give Scott Servais every game. Like, that's what it says. Do this. Do these guys. In 3 games on this road trip, that didn't work. The bullpen blew the lead. Now, if that didn't happen, if the road trip ended 4-5, we're talking about we're probably not talking about this. If the Mariners played better, I'm not even going to talk about the offense, but if they just didn't have these bad luck things, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation. Actually, let's go to a clip real quick. Okay, this is after one of the Pirates' losses. This is Scott Servais at a press conference. Let's listen to what he had to say.
So what are you saying is in terms of just frustration level from the guys right now? This has been, obviously a tough stretch to a really bad time.
Yeah, we're in a tough stretch. It happens. It happens to a lot of teams. It's happened to us before. We will come out of it. It's hard to go through. It's hard for me. It's hard for the players. You're trying to unlock it, but at the end of the day, you're a pro. You got to show up. You got to figure out how to get in the game tomorrow and win it. And you got to go out and finish games. We come out, energy is pretty good early, and you got to keep going and you got to finish it. So, that's just where we're at.
So what are you thing as in terms of
Now this one got a lot of heat from people because of his quote there. It happens. He says it happens, but this does happen. This happens to a lot of teams. Uh, take away those 3 blown saves, and we're talking about a different road trip. And then if we go back to June 19th, that's the day it all started to fall apart. That's the cutoff we're looking at. The Mariners have a 4-11 record in one-run games during that time. For the season, they have a 21-18 record, which means that they were plus 10 games in the first part of the season. And do you think that wasn't why they were in first place? Besides the Astros struggles, like that was why they were in first place, because they had the ridiculous one-run record in one-run games, and yeah, these things happen. Another thing I will say, about the offense is the offense sucks, but there's some guys who were hitting well over the stretch, but they're the ones that are hitting well. They're never hitting well in the same days at the same time. Uh, you know, that's baseball, and I'm gonna get into that in a second. But like, let's watch just one more clip, or let's listen to one more clip from Scott, another post game interview. I think this was his last ever post game interview.
How you get the big throw from Mitch there to
awesome
give
play.
that. I mean, at that point, it's tied.
I'm feeling good.
You feel like you have new life. Did you feel like, oh, okay, we're going to figure out a way?
I really did, yeah, and I thought our club did as well, and at that point, Mooney had only thrown about 5 or 6 pitches, so you felt good about him going out there. Just the free bases got us, give them an opportunity, and they took advantage of it. But a lot of good plays tonight, all around, good at bats. Randy hits the ball on the screws 3 times tonight and get nothing to show for it. So it'll turn around. I do believe in our guys, and again, I really do appreciate how we competed, battled back in the game, and not just didn't go our way tonight.
How you get the big.
Again, the key thing, and all the people, the bad faith actors, the bedwetting brigade, who just have wanted him fired the whole time, blamed him for everything the whole time, because he didn't call the play that said, "Hey, get a hit." He didn't do that. What is he thinking? Not calling the plays that say get a hit. But he says it's going to turn around. This staff. What he says there. Randy Arozarena was 0 for 3 in that game, and he hit the ball really hard and just got out. He hit a home run that missed by 3 feet. That's a different ball game. A lot of these things are different ball games, and that's what he means when he says all ball clubs go through this. This is going to turn around. That's what he means, and he's right, because all ball clubs do go through that. But that doesn't excuse this offense. Like, let's take a look at the offense here. Okay, let's take a look at this offense here. I set this up. The guys, anything you see that's bold is below average. Since June 19th, the Mariners rank first in strikeouts, or last, whatever you want to call it, 23rd in home runs, 30th in batting average, 26th in on-base percentage, 28th in slugging, 29th in WOBA. Like, you can be the greatest manager in the world. I don't know who that is. Bobby Cox, Dusty Baker, Joe Torre. It's not Joe Torre. That's New York exceptionalism. It's not Joe Torre. Lou Piniella coming back. No, it doesn't matter. If your team is hitting like this, that's not the manager's fault. I'm sorry. Of the players who have been played for the Mariners since June 19th. A very ominous date when you think about it. Cade Marlowe, that's only in 8 games. Leo Rivas, 19 games. Julio, Jonathan Clase in only 4 games. Victor Robles, Jorge Polanco and Ryan Bliss in only 17 games. Those are the only players who have above league average batting average in that time. That's ridiculous. I will say that Mitch Haniger has looked better. I won't. It was still a bad move. It's still not going to work out for them in the end. But this month, over this period, he's up to a 95 WRC plus. Not the best, still below average, still not worth what they wanted from him. But he's been even better this month, and it was better in July, and then even better this month. So these stats aren't the kindest to him, but look, a 181 batting average. That's terrible. If he didn't have his walks and his home runs, like he would have nothing. Like, and hey, we're all missing JP right now. We're all missing him, but guess what? He was hitting 196 when he was there. Justin Turner, since we got him, he's hitting 196. Dominic Canzone, I'm so tired of that guy. He's hitting 196. Garver, we don't even have to talk about, but let's talk about Josh Rojas. Because third base was an obvious spot where the Mariners could have upgraded Paul DeYoung, like nothing. That would have cost nothing. But, he's got gold glove level defense. But if he has a 244 WOBA, 60 WRC plus, like his year-to-date stats don't look bad, but that's because he had an incredible first month of the season. Like if you take away that first month, he has been so far below replacement level. He's been worse than Ty France. But nobody talks about that. Everyone's like, oh, Julio. What is Julio doing? It's whatever. But like this is the offense he is working with. Yeah, the Mariners pitching has been historically great. But this is what he's working with. What is he supposed to do here? You saw him experiment with the lineup. You saw, different looks, different, even they've had a lot more aggression at the plate lately. Quicker at bats, like swinging early in the count. Mixed results, but at least it's like trying something. But that's what they were doing. So why? Oops, I just spoiled why. Why is this happening? Why did Scott get fired? It's because of these guys, the sins of the father. Okay? Why does the offense stink? It's not because they sat out free agency this time. It's because they sat out free agency this time, last year, the year before that, the year before that. Prior to like the Mitch Garver signing, I'm pretty sure the biggest contract Jerry DiPoto ever handed out to a free agent hitter was AJ Pollock for $7 million. Remember that last year? When we all had the highest hopes for this team last year, and it was AJ Pollock and Tommy La Stella. Like, what a joke. When Carlos Correa hits free agency, and did they even talk to him? I don't even think they did talk to him. They didn't want to move JP off a short. But if you could have gotten an impact bat like that, you should have tried. And even like the posted guys like Yoshida or Suzuki, like, did they even give a real effort? I don't think they did. Like, they've always believed they could make the trades and do this and do that. And hey, Jorge Polanco was a good move. It was. The way he's been hitting the last 2 months, on my chart there, he has a 118 WRC plus since things fall apart. He's been one of their most valuable hitters. He's been even better July and August. He has like a over 125 WRC plus during that time. He's been an elite hitter, or elite for the Mariners hitter, which I guess is sort of the problem with the offense when you really think about it. Like, they don't have an elite hitter. Like, people are like, how are the Astros doing this? Yeah, they have Altuve and Bregman, but you know what they really have? They have Yordan. They have Yordan Alvarez, who's so much better than the average hitter in baseball, and he just makes the whole lineup revolves around him. Like, you're trying to think, like, can I get these guys out so I don't have to face him? Oh no, I gave up a walk. Now he's gonna get to bat if we don't do something. That changes everything. You look at the Orioles, Gunnar Henderson right now, an elite player. You look at the Royals. Look at the Royals. Bobby Witt Jr. is hitting 350. 350. That's insane. Obviously Yankees Judge, but you think like how this is kind of a digression, but how do you get these guys? Um, well, you have to draft and develop them. All those guys that I mentioned are with their original teams. That could be Julio. There's still time. He showed signs of being one of those guys, but he had a bad start to the year and he got hurt, and he's still not 100%. The home runs haven't come back for him yet. He could be one of those guys. But when the Mariners did the rebuild, it was really heavily pitching focused, and that's paid off great. But like, where's the hitting come? Where's the hitting going to come from? Okay, so if you're just going to draft and develop pitchers really well, and then you have the elite starting pitching, which they do, we're going to get hitters. You got to sign free agents. If you can't develop your Jordans, if you can't develop a Bobby Witt Jr., which, hey, wouldn't that be great if you could do that? It would be awesome. But if you can't do that, you have to go buy them. You have to go pay for them. And you have to overpay. And you have to pay a contract that at the end, oh my God, we're losing money. We're not getting enough dollars per war at the end of the contract. Like, who cares? Who cares? You guys haven't won anything. You made the playoffs one time as a wild card. And you're going to sit here and complain about back end value. I'm not even talking about this previous free agency class, because really they were smart to stay out of it. Bellinger has not been good. Candelario, that's turned out to be a really bad contract, and a lot of people, that was the one that a lot of people wanted the Mariners to do because he fit a need. Chapman, I think the Mariners would be pretty good with Chapman instead of Josh Rojas, but whatever. But like sitting out the previous ones, the Semien, the Seager. Oh wait, no, the Seager was never going to happen because of the way Jerry treated Kyle Seager. So like, again, that's the sins of the father. That should be like, did the organization treat him bad, or hey, you cost us Corey Seager, like a generational shortstop. Like we could have maybe had him if you would have been nicer to his big brother. When also, like, the whole time you had the job, you knew that the little brother existed. Like, you should have picked up that 20 million option and be like, hey, this is your home, man. We want you to play with your brother. We want you to be here forever. We want you to be the next Dan Wilson and like come to every single event we have and like, shake hands with the next Mariners Hall of Famer and blah, blah, blah. Be there on opening day. Like, whatever, like Kyle Seager should have been that guy. I don't care if he didn't extract his maximum value. Like, they did that guy wrong. And it cost them any chance at Corey Seager. And then who knows if that didn't maybe cost them a chance with other players, These players talk, agents talk. If you want players, you have to pay for them. And if you want players to play for the Seattle Mariners, you have to pay even more. You have to outbid them. Yeah, that's really what it is. So, yeah, Scott Servais was fired because he has a terrible offense. And why does he have a terrible offense? Because of the moves of the front office, because of the cheapness of the ownership, all of it. There's hope for the future with this farm system. There is. There really is. Cole Emerson, Cole Young, Ty Pete, Ben Williamson, all these guys. Hey, maybe that's how Jerry keeps his job. Like, hey, you know what? I've been trying to build this team, but my real team is this next team that's going to come. I could see them doing it because everyone's so high off the farm system supply when it's just like, hey, how about the major leagues? How about the playoffs, the World Series? How about stuff like that? So, I don't blame Scott, but somebody had to do something. And the team, let's just get into it. Let's get into Dan. Let's get into Dan the Man Wilson. Second best catcher in Mariners history. The first one is active. Dan Wilson. Dan Wilson. As the Mariners love 1995. The Mariners love 2001. Uh, and they should. The team wouldn't exist without the 1995 Mariners. 2001 Mariners, greatest regular season team in history, maybe, or top three, top four. One of the tied for the most wins. There's Yankees teams that were supposedly better by and Astros teams that were better by like a Pythagorean record way. But the Mariners clocked the wins, and that matters. Clocking the wins. The Mariners clocked those wins, so they deserve to be one of the greatest regular season teams of all time. And because the Mariners, since 2001, haven't done anything, they've relied heavily on that nostalgia and those memories. And that means that Jamie Moyer is always around, and that means that Dan Wilson's always around, and that means that Edgar's around, and whoever else. We'll bring them back every homestand if we can. Anything to squeeze every last drop out of that time. Your feelings of nostalgia. And they're not the only team that does that. They're not the only sport. They're not the only entertainment that does that. But they are pretty brazen about it. And now maybe it's reached its apex because Dan Wilson is the next Seattle Mariners manager. Manager of the Seattle Mariners, Dan the Man Wilson. Here's the thing about Dan Wilson. I'm going to miss him as a fill-in color commentator. He was pretty good at that. But the thing about Dan Wilson is he has worked as a special assistant for the Mariners for years now. He knows all these guys. So I know people are saying he doesn't have any experience, blah, blah, blah. In that role, his job is to go around and spread the Mariners' way or spread the Mariners' gospel. This is how the front office does it. This is how we do it the Mariners' way. So it's like, yeah, he's never managed a game, but first of all, as I've said with Scott, a manager doesn't manage. A manager doesn't fill out the lineup card. The lineup card comes to him in an email, and he writes it in his handwriting. That's what a manager is. So a manager's just like knowing the players, motivating the players, handling personalities, and Dan Wilson can probably do that great. Does he have something in him that can inspire these players? I don't know. Maybe. This move reminds me in a lot of ways when the Brewers made the playoffs for their first time in 20 years or 20, 30 years, whatever it was. In I think it was 2007, and they fired their manager and they hired Dale Sveum, who was like a former Brewers player, and they hired him for the last 13 games, and he went 7-6, but that was enough to make the playoffs. It reminds me of that. It's like, hey, we're making a change, and we're bringing in the guy the guy that you've heard his name in the past, and we're gonna do it. I want it to be Ichiro, to be honest, but that would be like Ichiro as the manager to the end of the year, and I still think that would have been the smarter thing to do. Because if you can't get hyped for Ichiro, can you get hyped? Imagine Ichiro like doing the thing he would do at the All-Star break where he like swears a bunch, like let's go get these MF and Astros, blah blah blah. And anyway, so Dan Wilson will be fine. I don't think anything about the way the Mariners play will fundamentally change. It's probably going to look exactly the same as it would have if Scott was here. But maybe he can communicate better, or maybe Edgar Martinez is hitting coach. Maybe he'll be able to reach somebody, or just something. Or maybe this is a spark. Like, hey, we like Scott. We're gonna play for him. We're gonna play harder for him. Like, we're mad. We're sorry. We know it's our fault. Something like that. But that's the past. All this is the past. I didn't even want. I try to like do a podcast after a win because it's more fun. Talk about like, okay, let's let's go win more. Everyone likes to talk after a win. But, after this road trip, that wasn't going to happen. Before I get into what I'm going to say, let me just say this. If before the season I said, hey, I'll give you $1,000 if you can pick the series that the Mariners will get swept, a 3-game series, pick one where they're going to get swept, I'll give you $1,000. How many of you would have picked the Dodgers at the end of a 9-game road trip with no day off between Pittsburgh and LA? Like, everyone would have picked that. Come on. Like, that was the hardest. First of all, it's the Dodgers, the 3 of the best hitters in the world, 3 Hall of Famers, and then a good team around them. First of all, it's them. And then it's like a bad schedule spot. August. The road. That's the thing about the Mariners. They're not a good road team. They're not a good road team. The Mariners are 27-38 on the road. And yeah, that includes that horrid road trip that we just saw, but 26-30 is not a good road record either. Just something to keep in mind. But anyway, just one more thing I want to say about the since June 19th run. What Scott said, it's going to turn around. This kind of stuff happens. It's going to turn around. So they were 20-33. They scored 207 runs, 215 runs allowed. The Pythagorean record would be a 490 winning percentage. So imagine they go 26-27 in that stretch, or 25-28. We're having a different conversation. And then you look at the Mariners year to date, Pythagorean record, 66-62. They're underplaying it by 2 wins. And then if you go by base runs, which I cannot explain, but I know that it's real, they should be 68-60, which would put them right there with the Astros. So yeah, they're right now 5.5 games back. And they have looked terrible. And the offense is still bottom of the league in all these categories. Batting average, strikeouts, etc. But I still have hope. And why do I have hope? Because the next 3 weeks, let's call it September 8th, okay? If by September 8th, if they're get it down to 3 games at worst, 2 games, maybe even 4. Even if they get it to 4, they have a chance. Okay, right now, about to kick off a 6-game homestand. We know they play better at home. The pitchers are better at home. They got something to motivate them now. Then they got a day off. Oh, and a nice day off. And then they're on their way to the Angels. They should beat the Angels. I know what happened before the All-Star break, but they can beat the Angels. The Angels cannot match their pitching. The Angels hitters cannot hit their pitching. Then the Athletics. Another very winnable series. I know the Athletics have been really hot. I know the Athletics have a great offense. But if the Mariners pitching pitches like it has, they can win that series. They can win that 4-game series. Then they go to the Cardinals. Yeah, that's going to be a shitty flight. I wish they had a day off there. But the Cardinals are in a free fall. They have like a negative 60 run differential, something insane like that. Not a good team. Then back home, Padres, Rangers, Yankees. Some tough games in there. But again, this is a better team at home. They are 37-26 at home. They're a good home team. And if they do what they're supposed to do in those previous series, then they'll be in striking distance and they'll know it. They'll know that they'll be there. But anyways, the Cardinals series ends on September 8th. That's when I'm going to say I give up or I don't give up. Because if they can, this next 2-week period, if they can get it done, they will be making a move. They will be making a move. And then you have the homestand, 3 more against the Rangers, 3 against the Astros, okay? That's why I said you want to get to to 4, 3 games in that period. Because if you get to there, 3 games, 3 games you need to sweep to get to even. That'll be tough. But if you're 2 games, you sweep, then you finish the season with the Athletics, I mean, it's set up for them. It's set up for success. I believe they have one more home game than away game. But yeah, that's your challenge, Dan Wilson, if you choose to accept it. This is what you hired for. This stretch, it favors the Mariners. It does. The Astros, the Yankees, and the Giants. Those are the 3 best teams they're playing. The rest of the teams, out of it. The Rays are always going to be tough. But you got them at home. The Giants, they're making moves. But the Giants actually, they're making moves. Let me pull this up real quick. The Giants are making moves, but they only have a 94 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. They do most of their damage against lefties. And guess what? The Mariners have all elite right-handed starter pitching. So I think it's a good series. I think it's a good series to kick off Dan Wilson's career. I think it's a good series for the Mariners to hit reset and say, it's not over yet. Let's do it. So that's it. The Mariners season is not over yet. But you know what is over? This podcast. I will see you soon.